Hello and welcome to this our first feature from the Ultimate Top Trumps reference website. Today I want to talk about a common and very annoying phenomenon called foxing. Here are some examples of what is meant by foxing. Foxing is a staining and marking of old paper. As you can see from these various images, foxing affects everything that is paper based. The older the paper, the more currencies and the greater the damage. This phenomenon is called foxing due to the colour being very similar to that of a fox, a rusty red colour going on brown. So, what has this to do with trumps, I hear you ask? Well, for collectors who collect older packs, foxing is very common, and just like books, newspapers and old maps, trump cards can be badly affected. There is no way to prevent this from occurring. One good thing, however, is the use of the media or card that is used. Card that is coated with either that dreadfully awful waxy feel or that pleasantly smooth, silky, shiny feel are much less likely to be heavily affected, unlike the card that we are used to with packs from around the 1970s, for instance the Breck, Ass and FX Schmid. This type of card has very little protection from foxing, and as you can see here, the proof is in the showing. The first pack I want to show you is a pack called Marchen from Berliner, German, and it dates from 1950. The box is made of a simple card that, as you can see, has begun to fail and required some patching up, and as you can see, the card of the box has suffered from foxing both on the outside as well as the inside of the lid. The cards themselves have a smoother, shiny feel, and you can see that there is very little evidence of foxing either along the edges of the cards or back and front sides. Instead, it is wear due to playing the cards. Foxing is only ever evident on the front or back of the cards, and as you can see here, there is very little, if any at all. The next pack is Autos from Belgium. We recently showed this pack in week 5 of our diary update. When we view the pack from the side, we see that the edges of the cards are suffering heavily from wear, and you can see here that the middle of the pack edge on is much darker than the tops and bottoms. That's where you hold the cards, a sure sign of wear. But when we look at the card fronts and card backs, we see that there is a lot of foxing. Another annoying thing that occurs with foxing is that you get an old and musty, damp, horrible smell that you may have noticed if you've ever visited a library or perhaps a second-hand bookshop. When we look at a card from each of these packs side by side, you can see what I mean about the type of media or card that was used. The older, at 61 years old, is the card on the left and in much better condition, while the younger card is less than 40 years old on the right and is in very poor condition. All new packs are now printed using more sophisticated card, which will in the end preserve the life of that card. If we look at a bit closer at this foxing on this card, you can see that it looks as though the card has been dipped into some kind of a staining agent or perhaps discoloured water. You can also just make out damage to the card surface as well. So what causes this foxing? Well, although it is known what it is and what it does, there is still a lot of debate about what actually causes it. What is fact is that older card and paper is more affected. As you saw from the video, the 1950s pack was less affected but it is the material that is the issue. What is known is that foxing or the brownish staining is a form of decay that is possibly caused by handling, but then other ideas hint that it could well be a fungal infection. Others say that it is due to certain grades of paper and card being affected by oxidation of the trace amounts of copper and iron in the material. One thing is for sure, and something we can all attest to, whether it be trump cards, books, or old letters or newspapers, is that older paper stinks, and also, myself included, allergic reactions can occur from contact with this type of thing, such as prickling skin, thirst and itching. So really, all of the possibilities that have been made to explain foxing may all be the answer. We all know that when mould grows it stinks, as does old food. Fungus in some cases can be released into the atmosphere when disturbed and is also known to cause allergic reactions. We also know that when metals such as copper and iron are exposed to the air, they discolour and begin to break down. There is, as I've said, not a guaranteed way to prevent this contamination or breakdown, but one thing is known to slow the process up, and that is to keep the affected paper and card in a low humidity environment. Handling, as I've shown, can accelerate the effect on this, and you might have noticed that when people browse antique books or newspapers, they wear those white cloth gloves. So the best way to preserve your collection of older packs is to rarely handle them, keep them inside their cases and in a low humidity and cool place. Well, that's it. So thank you very much for sitting through my rambling once again, and I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something from it. So until next time, goodbye.